Welcome back. President-elect Donald Trump nominating former Arkansas governor and presidential candidate Mike Huckabee as the U.S. ambassador to Israel. Huckabee posted on X that he has been visiting Israel since he was a teenager and is honored to take up this role. Trump also selecting New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik to serve as U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. And real estate investor and longtime Trump ally Steve Witkoff chosen as the special envoy to the Middle East. These three will be working together. Joining me now is United Nations Watch Executive Director Hillel Neuer. Hillel, it's great to have you this morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Give us your reaction to these appointments. How will these appointments impact the United Nations and specifically Israel?
Look, these are very powerful appointments. They send a clear message. We've seen a series of appointments in the past 24 hours. Clearly, these envoys understand that Israel is a democracy. It's sitting in its ancient homeland. It has rights to defend itself. They are confronting brutal terrorists funded and armed by the Islamic regime of Iran, which is fighting a seventh front war against Israel. Clearly, new ambassador, well, she'll be confirmed soon. Elise Stefanik knows that. New ambassador Huckabee knows that. So a clear message is being sent to the world. The United States stands by its allies, stands by Israel.
This is very, very powerful. The fact that he's putting these three individuals in these roles, because it's clear that they are going to have an impact. Elise Stefanik, tell me about her, and what do you think she's going to do at the UN?
Look, everyone was amazed by Elise Stefanik in the Congress, how she grilled the presidents of Harvard, Penn, and the others, got those two presidents basically fired because of their toleration of anti-Semitism, which they tried to justify in absurd ways. And we are hoping that she's going to bring that fierce pursuit of justice to the UN. You know, I've been on the ground 20 years at the UN. We're fighting dictators, terrorists, and those who are their apologists. For folks like us, activists who've been on the ground, Elise Stefanik is our B-52 bomber, and we're there to call in the targets.
I love that you call her the B-52 bomber. What is wrong with the UN? Why doesn't the UN see things the way you've just laid it out?
Look, the UN was founded with the best ideals. FDR, before he passed away, it was his vision of liberal internationalism in the best sense of the word. Sadly, over decades, the UN has been hijacked. At the Human Rights Council in Geneva, where I'm based, 60% are dictatorships, the Chinese communist regime, the Cuban police state, Eritrea, Qatar, which sponsors terrorists. They control 60% of the seats. They appoint absurd anti-Western, anti-American, anti-Semitic UN experts who openly say that Hamas has, quote, the right to resistance. So we need someone to clean house, and I'm confident that Elise Stefanik is a person who could do that.
Mike Huckabee also has been talking so much about Israel before even being nominated. What can he do? What can he actually achieve in that role as ambassador?
Well, first thing, the moment he hits the ground, the United States has sent a message to the world. We have the backs of our allies. And sadly, for the past few years, even though Biden at various moments did stand with Israel, at other times he put pressure on Israel to stop its war with Hamas, to pause. Had Israel listened to Hamas, they never would have gone into Rafah to get the head of Hamas, who eventually was found and eliminated. They never would have gone into Lebanon the way that they did, eliminating incredibly Nasrallah and the others. So we need America to send a clear message. We stand by our allies. We know who the enemies are. It's the Islamic regime in Iran. It's their allies, China, and other dictatorships around the world.
Do you think that the Biden-Harris administration and the Democrats understand that part of the reason that Americans have walked away from them is their treatment of Israel? Because I really have found a core group of voters that have become one-issue voters, and that is Israel. And when the Democrats and, you know, so many of them, including, by the way, Bernie Sanders, tried to get Biden to stop sending weapons to Israel, and he did. He threatened, we're going to, you know, Kamala Harris threatened during the campaign, if they don't do this and they don't do it this way, we're going to stop sending weapons. That was the red line for this group of Jewish voters.
Yeah, absolutely. And there were other times when Kamala was challenged by protesters. And she said, well, you have a point. Protesters who supported Hamas.
Right, you have a point.
And she said, well, you have a point.
Yeah,
and so there was this hemming and hawing, and people saw that. And, you know, I just heard Congressman Richie Torres. He's a Democrat here in the Bronx. He gets it. And he says, you know, we sent these dangerous messages. We need to clean house, come back. Democratic Party once was not like that. You know, Bill Clinton, certainly, he supported Israel. And, you know, Biden supported Israel, but you had these messages at different times, sending confused, contradictory messages, and I think the voters rejected that.
Let me get your take on some of the others. President-elect Trump is also reportedly expected to choose Florida Senator Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. This is the top diplomat role in the United States. If appointed, Rubio would be heavily involved in negotiating Israel's war against Hamas and Iranian terrorist proxies. The Biden administration has been pushing for a ceasefire now. Since this began? A year they've been pushing for the ceasefire. And everything you just went through, don't go into Rafah. Well, that's where the terrorists were. Meantime, Iran is now rethinking its relationship with the United States. The New York Times out with this piece titled, "Iran Debates Whether It Could Make a Deal with Trump." Writing, some of Iran's new, more moderate government think the result of the presidential election provides an opportunity to make a lasting deal with the United States. Hillel, your thoughts?
Well, first, the fact that the New York Times calls the Iranian regime a new, more moderate government says what's wrong with our media. To be frank, the New York Times, the author of that piece, reporter Farnaz Fasihi, is a known Iran apologist. Those who've been targeted by assassination, like Masih Alinejad, the hero who called out the abuse of women, her and others have been abandoned by the New York Times. So I think we have a problem that beyond just the government is that there are people in society and elite institutions who are giving a free pass to the worst regime in the world. They beat, blind, poison, torture, and rape women for the crime of standing up for their rights. We need moral clarity, and I think someone like Marco Rubio, he has it. I've worked with victims from China, from Venezuela, from Cuba. Marco Rubio gets it. They meet with him. They like him. They trust him. He's going to bring the heat on the dictatorships and help those fighting for democracy.
Isn't it incredible that the election was a week away? I mean, it feels like a month, but it was just last week. And all of a sudden, within days, our adversaries are getting in line. Russia sending a message suggesting, we want to reset. You've got Iran saying, well, maybe this could mean a deal with the new leadership in the United States. That's strength through power.
Absolutely. It's extraordinary. President Trump has said it, and his envoys are saying it. If we want to get peace, you need peace through strength. You do not get peace through appeasement. Sadly, too often, that was the message sent by Blinken, by Biden, by their envoys, trying to appease the UN, trying to appease the dictators. That doesn't work. You need to show them strength, moral clarity, and resolve. It worked for Churchill. It worked for Reagan. It can work for us now.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The people are smart. The people saw through this.
Common sense. Common sense.
Hillel, it's great to get this your take on this and have this conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hillel Neuer joining us. Quick break and then your morning forecast. Everything you need to know about today's weather before you